Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this important commemoration evening of beautiful music. Because even out of trouble and difficulty, can we find beauty, and because we're Jews, it's what we do. I want to welcome you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Cantor Elon Davidson, and it is an honor to welcome you into our sanctuary here at Temple Beth. And it's an even greater honor to be able to host this beautiful concert tonight, which would not be possible without the generosity of Bob Gold, who is sitting right over here, and I want to thank Bob for that generous gift. And several months ago, Bob called me up and he says, "Have you heard of this lady? She's fantastic. We have to have her." And I said, "Okay." I said, "You can't say no to And I have a hard time saying no to Bob. So he's very persuasive. So, we are here on a very important day in modern Jewish history. November 9th, 1938 was the eve of Kristalnacht, the eve of broken glass. It was the beginning of the Holocaust, for all intents and purposes, when the Hitler Youth and many followers of Hitler went through and rampaged and destroyed Jewish businesses, destroyed Jewish homes, destroyed synagogues, whatever they could get their hands on that night. It was truly a horrible, horrible night for the Jews. And Jewish businesses especially had broken windows, and that's how it got its name, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. And little did we know what was still ahead of us. We knew it as just an evening that was bad for us. There could be raids, there could be pogroms that we had lived through. We had no idea of what was still yet to come. And of course, we know what history has written and what was done following that to over 6 million Jews, over 12 million people. And so we commemorate this evening, not to mourn, although of course there is a level of mourning that comes into us whenever we remember something so tragic that happened to our people. But we commemorate this evening because by doing so, we are also saying that we will never allow something like this to happen again. And so it is very important that we do so. Out of the ashes, there was still beautiful music. There was still stunning culture. Even in the concentration camps, we have evidence of Jewish culture that was still uplifted and was still so beautiful and kept us going. It kept the hope alive in our people. And we have always been a people filled with hope. And that will never change. That will never change. It can never change. We cannot allow that to change. We must always remain a people that are filled with hope, because we know that tomorrow is another day, and next week is another week, and next month is another month, and next year is another year. And we are still here, and we are here knowing that we can make a better tomorrow. And so tonight we commemorate with the use of beautiful music and beautiful Yiddish song. I know, it's funny because Harriet asked me, she says, "Do you speak Yiddish?" And I said, "I don't even sing in Yiddish." I said, because I find it breaks my teeth. It's so difficult for me for some reason. Even though I've sung in German, I sing in Hebrew, you would think that Yiddish is just the combination of the two. It shouldn't be a big deal. But somehow, Somehow I just find it so difficult. But when it's done well, as you're about to experience, it is absolutely beautiful. So I hope that you will sit back and enjoy the evening. I will remind you also that while there is no charge for this concert, we do welcome any kinds of donations to support the temple. And there was a basket as you came in. It'll still be there as you exit tonight. And we hope that if you love this concert tonight, that you'll leave a generous donation to support Temple Bethel's programming. Because we didn't want to charge for this night. That was really important to us. But we also wanted it to be a night that raised important funds for Temple Bethel. So you can help by leaving a donation as you leave tonight, and just take how you are moved by the music and translate that into dollars. Why not? Why not? So help me now to please welcome to our bima on accordion, Daniel Avedon, on cello, Diana Parmiter, and of course, the star of our show, the very talented soprano, Harriet Bennish.
On the eve of November 9th, 1938, Nazis shattered the windows of Jewish-owned stores, buildings, and synagogues throughout Germany and Austria. The event became known as Kristalnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. On the morning of November 5th, 2024, vandals smashed the windows of several Jewish-owned stores in the Pico Robertson area of Los Angeles. As we ponder the similarities of these two events, let us hope and pray that the world will find a way to stand up to anti-Semitism and protect the Jewish people. Auf in Pripyat brennt der Feuer und in Sturm ist heiß. Und der Rabe lernt kleiner Kinderlach, der Molef beiß. Und der Rabe lernt kleiner Kinderlach, der Molef beiß. Gedenksche Kinderlach, gedenksche Teure, was lernt da? Sucht noch einmal und Tage noch einmal, komm jetzt alle vor. Sucht noch einmal und Tage noch einmal, komm jetzt alle vor. Euphim Pripyat, At the Fireplace. I chose this song by Mark Washevsky because for some of you it may be the only song you recognize on my program. But for the 11 million people who spoke Yiddish prior to World War II, this lullaby was just as popular as Rockabye Baby in America. You may wonder why choose Yiddish songs written in the ghettos of Eastern Europe. Well, it started with one song from a collection of Yiddish songs called 30 Songs of the Ghetto. Das elente Kind, Yiddish for the lonely child, was so beautiful that I knew I wanted to include it in my program. My research revealed that the song was inspired by a true story. Then I discovered that all the songs I chose for my program had a story to be told as well. Although most of the composers and writers of these songs perished in the Holocaust, I don't believe that their songs need to die with them. Each song is hauntingly beautiful as the creators describe their everyday life living in a ghetto. Das elende Kind, The Lonely Child, the song that started my journey, exploring music written in the Jewish ghettos, is based on the life of Rachela Pupko-Krinsky, an educated teacher who knew many languages. Rachela's husband had been killed by the Germans and was forced to make that heart-wrenching decision to hide her 18-month-old child, Sorala, outside of the ghetto. The poet of the song, Shmerka Kaczyginski, was so moved by the mother's heroic act that he wrote a poem in honor of all Jewish children forced to be hidden during the war. Shmerka Kaczyginski, on the left, is seen here with Rachela and the poet Abraham Sutzkever, who were all members of the Paper Brigade, a group of Jewish intellectuals who risked their lives to conceal Vilna's Judaic treasures from Nazi vandals. The poem was set to music by composer Yankel Krimsky, who did not survive. In 1946, Kaczyginski, without any accompaniment, recorded Das elende Kind in a displaced persons camp. Kaczyginski did survive the war, but was later killed in a plane crash in 1954. Sarah and her mother were reunited and moved to America. Fast forward 50 years, Sarah, now a middle-aged woman, is visiting the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. She comes across an exhibit of recordings from the ghetto. Shmerka Kaczyginski singing The Lonely Child was one of them. On a very scratchy recording, he announces that this song is dedicated to Rachela Pupko-Krinsky and her daughter Sorala. It was at this moment that Sarah realized that the song was about her. I must admit, because of that story, this is the first song I chose to learn to sing for this concert. Seen here on the left is Sarah, the lonely child, all grown up with her own child, Alex Wall. Standing behind Alex on the right is her grandmother, Rachela, the mother who saved her own child by hiding her outside the ghetto walls. Standing next to Rachela is her second husband, Abraham Melazin, another survivor. I've been in communication with Alex Wall, the granddaughter of the late Rachela Pupko-Krinsky, and I'm happy to report that I finally got to meet her when she attended a concert I gave in Sonoma State University in October of 2021. Alex is in the final stages of creating a documentary based on both her grandmother and mother's lives entitled The Lonely Child. To see a trailer of this work in progress, go to www.lonelychildmovie.com. There are 4 verses in The Lonely Child, but I will be singing only 3, because in the 4th verse, you will hear the recording that Sarah heard at the Holocaust Museum when she asked to hear music written in the Vilna ghetto. That same scratchy recording of Shmerka Kaczyginski singing Das elende Kind. The Lonely Child.
Sagt mir, wes jogt und lot's nicht zur Ruhe. Oh Mama, mein Mama, wo bist du, wo? Sucht dich dein Sohn, ruft dich dein Kind. Ja, wir uns wollt in Feld und erfüllt. Sucht dich dein Sohn, ruft dich dein Kind. Ja, mit uns wollt in Feld und erfüllt. des Sommers, die noch schwarz gefällt ist, und das ist geschehen. Noch schwarze das Puder, mein Mann ist gewählt. Die noch schwarz gefällt ist, und das ist geschehen. Noch schwarze das Puder, mein Mann ist gewählt. In Vogel von Tag, in Wanden von Nacht, in Urmel von Schlaf liegt das Kind und es dort. Und Kind mein sich schuld von Taten, die tritt, die Mama verwiegte und singte das Lied. O Kind meins, sie hat Schuld von Taten, die tritt, die Mama verwiegt dir und singt dir das Lied.
Als du wirst einmal am Mamele sein, sollst du deine Kinder erzählen dem Pein, was Tate, was Mame gehabt hat und Fein. Da man wird das morgen, vergesst jos nicht ein, was Tate, was Mame gehabt hat und Fein. Der Mond wird das morgen, vergesst das nicht ein. Das ältere Kind, Mechaber Kaczerginski, Musik Janko Krimski, gesungen durch Mechaber, Amatone Sorle Krimsken in New York und a Geruß der Mannen in New York.
Beginning in 1939, according to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, there were more than 1,000 ghettos established in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. Kosriel Broido, in the song Ghetto, lived in the Vilna ghetto. Broido was a poet, singer, and coupletist. A couplet is a witty, ambiguous, political, or satirical song. Knowing this helped me understand Broido's approach to the song Ghetto. It is very much doom and gloom throughout the whole song, except when he comes to the refrain. He sings about how much he loves the ghetto and how much he will miss it. He even sets the music to the rhythm of a tango, which was very popular among composers in the ghetto. Kosriel Broido died in 1945.
Wir stehen bei die Wand, mit Herzen mit verklemmter, mit reuterloser Hand, wie bei weiden dicke Wälber. Es gucken Augen starr und sinken ein tief in der Weitkeit, und sie bleibt in Seele die Ewigkeit. Schwer zu sein die Welt, durch ein Gemäuer sest du als wie nach Hollen, sed scheint wie auf der Wall, die große Welt. Ghetto, die vergessen will ich immer nicht. Elchoi ist ein Hals in den teure Glied. Seh du deine Tränen, dein Honig und dein Haar. Redel dein Gebet, was wird sein, was wird sein? In deiner Ghetto gässlich ist mir eng. Das Herz ist so betriebt, das Herz ist so betriebt. Und Gott verstehst du sehr, doch ist mir als ein Lied. Ghetto, die vergessen will ich immer nicht. Welchoi ist dein Herz, dein treuer Lied. Seh du deine Tränen, dein Honig und dein Pein. Ghetto, dich vergessen will ich immer nicht. Elchoi ist dein Herz, dein treuer Glied. Seh du deine Tränen, dein Honig und dein Pein. The water.
Rivkala the Shabbos sticker, Rivkala the Shabbos widow, was written by Pesach Kaplan in the Bialystok ghetto and was based on a true story. On a Saturday, Shabbos in Yiddish, 3,000 Jewish men were taken by truck to an unknown destination. The wives and mothers of the men were told that the men would be returned, providing they paid a ransom. The ransom was raised and taken by Jewish representatives of the ghetto, the Judenrat, to the Germans, only to be told that the men had already been sent to labor in concentration camps. The Judenrat decided to withhold this devastating news in order to destroy hope for the men's return. In reality, the men had been shot immediately after being taken from the ghetto. Rivkala is about a Sabbath widow who still hoped for the release of her husband. Pesach Kaplan was a chronicler of the ghetto. Although he died in 1943, his diary was found after the war in the ghetto ruins. His last entrance read, "We go to our death. Avenge us." Fabrik, dreht auf
Strick. Oi, wie geht auf finsterer, teurer Lag, und das Herz als Zeug verklemmt durch ihr als Bang. Ihr Getreue Herrschele, diese Weg nicht da, singt von jenem Schabesort, singt von jener Schau. Is vertreue Driftkere, Jahre, Tag und Nacht. Und das sind beim Räderle, sitzt sie und sie tracht. Wo ist mein Liebenker, lebt noch Gott vor? Sie in Konzentrationlager, arbeit schwer und roh. Ui, wie bitter ist in dort, bitter aus mir da. Sind von jenem Schabesorn, sind von jener
Yisroelik was written by Lev Rosenthal in the Vilna ghetto and is about the child peddlers, usually 11 or 12 years old, who put their lives at risk, sneaking out of the ghetto to gather food and cigarettes, hiding as much as they could in oversized coats to bring back to their families, and selling the rest on the ghetto streets. Due to rampant starvation, families depended on this food to survive. Yisroelik captures the child peddler's courageous resistance. He has no time for complaints or grief. He had to be tough, keeping his spirit up with a song or a whistle. The song was first performed by Lev Rosenthal's 17-year-old sister, Chayla Rosenthal, at a memorable concert on January 18, 1942. The composer Misha Wexler conducted the Jewish Theater Orchestra in the Vilna ghetto and wrote many popular ghetto songs. Yes, there was an orchestra. The composer, lyricist, and the performer were all important figures in the ghetto's cultural life. Of the three, only Chayla survived the war. Chayla took to heart the words of Yisroelik. In the last verse, Yisroelik addresses his true sadness, but is quick to say, "Besser az mit rednet," better not talk about it. And that is exactly what Chayla did. She continued to have a successful career as a performer. She even played Golda in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway in New York. But she kept her past a secret from her two daughters, Nava and Zola, as was the case with many Holocaust survivors. It wasn't until her daughters were adults that they discovered the truth about their Uncle Labes and their mother's experiences living in the Vilna ghetto. It was Chayela's surviving daughter, Zola Piatka Schumann, who wholeheartedly gave me permission to use these pictures in my program. Zola lives in South Africa, but in March of 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, she was visiting California, and without hesitation, I jumped in my car and I drove to her hotel near the airport so I could meet her. I must admit that being in contact with descendants of these songs has brought me closer to this music. Yisroelik.
Nu kaufsche Paparossen, nu kaufsche Sacharin, geworden ist eins heures billig wert. A Leben vor Groschen, a Bruder Verdienst, von Ghetto-Händler heute noch gehört. Ches is reulich, ich bin das Kind von Ghetto. Ches is reulich, a heftige Jung, hat zwar blieben Golen netto, der lang ich als noch es frische ohne A Mantel und a Kragen, tacht heunen von a Sach. Kaloschen hab ich zwellen nur die Schicht. Und wer es wird nur wagen, zu lachen eurer Sach, denn will ich nur weisen, wer bin ich. Ches is reulich, ich bin das Kind von Ghetto. Ches is reulich, a heftige Jung, hat verblieben Golen netto, der lang ich als noch als Fischer ohne Sohn. Nicht mit hat geboren, die heftige dicke Gas. Bei Tate, Mama, ich gewinne Kind. Ich werde nun geboren, nicht es ist so Spaß. Ich bin geblieben wie ein Feld der Wind. Ches ist reulich, nur wenn keine Sepp nicht, wisch ich still sich von Europa trenn, nur von mein Treue, besser als mit Rednet zu was der Monnen und machen's als sich schwer. Nur von mein Treue, besser als mit Rednet zu was der Monnen und machen's als sich schwer.
Stiller, stiller. Quiet, quiet. The story behind this song is fascinating. It started in the Vilna ghetto with a musical competition sponsored by the Literary Artistic Circle. The prize, extra rations of bread, sugar, or eggs. 11-year-old Alec Volkovsky won first prize with a hauntingly beautiful melody. The writer, Shmerka Kotchaginsky, was so moved by the tune inspired by the boy's own suffering that he used this tune to recount the tragedy of Ponar, where 70,000 Jews had been murdered. The song describes the pain of a mother whose husband had been taken to Ponar. She soothes her child, telling him his father will return, knowing he will not. She describes the Vilna that she remembers and ends with seeing freedom's reflection on her child's face. What happened to the sensitive 11-year-old? It took a bit of digging to find that Alec Volkovsky survived, moved to Israel, and changed his name to Alexander Tamir. He pursued a music career and became part of a well-known piano duo with Bracha Eden. In fact, they became so well-known, they appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1958. Alec Volkovsky, who changed his name to Alexander Tamir, died on August 15, 2019 in Israel at the age of 88. Stiller, stiller.
Still, still, ohne Schweigen, Quoren wachsen doch. So bin sie verpflanzt, die Sonne im grünen See zum Blau. Zwiebelwege zu Parot zu, Zwirkelwild zurück. Ist der Taterwurf verschwunden und mit ihm das Glück. Stille Kind, meins Wehne Reuster, so haft ne kein Gewählt. Und so beglückt wird Sonne, sei wir nicht verstellt. So bin Brügge solche Sonnen, so bin Brüche euche zusammen, nur zu unser Point, gib es so scheut. Fliegen wir Finnland gekommen, oder hab's gebracht. Ist der Tag ein Pfuhl mit Blumen und sieht neu die Nacht. Goldig eure Stunden blätter uns der Zahl. Bleib uns und Wurmame, sie Kind geht euch Ponar. Geschnitter, Dolche leuchten Pein, zerkrüsselt durch Lichter ist in Janerein. Es wird der Heuschig wohl zu ruhen von der finster leichten Sohlen. Reite Kummer geschwört, dich ruft dein Kind. Still, stilles Quellen quallen uns in Hals herum, bis der Teuer wird nicht fallen, sein mir muss in Sturm. Freinit Kiese saß der Schwächel, ist vor uns verreit. Herz der Blatt. Soll der quasi ruhig fließen, still sei und auf. Mit der Freude und der Tochter, schlosche Kind mein Schlaf. Wie die Wärme Freude, wie die Bäume grün weiter. Leib auf Freiheitsnacht, auf dein Gesicht, auf dein Gesicht.
Freeling, Springtime. The poet Shmerka Kaczyginski wrote this song in April of 1943 as a memorial to his wife, who had perished in the Vilna ghetto that same month. In the song, Kaczyginski visits all the places that hold a memory of his beloved wife, questioning if he can even go on without her. Walking down familiar streets, he observes the locked door of the home they once shared and remembers their sweet kisses as she waited for him at the end of his workday. Freeling, springtime, please take my sorrow and bring my loved one, my dear one, back to me.
Ich belonge in Ghetto von Gessel zu Gessel. Ich kenn nicht gefühlen kein Ort. Nicht da ist mein Liebe, wie trockt mir der Riebe. Menschen und Sachen schon Wort. Es leicht auf mein Himmel, der Himmel, der Neue. Was hab ich ist der Fuhr. Ich steh wie ein Bettler bei jedem Teuer. Bettler bis zur Sonne. Frühling zu mein Treue und bring mein Liebstag, mein Treuen zurück. Frühling und deine Fliege bleier und nimm mein Herz mit und gib es um mein Glück. Ich geh zu der Arbeit vorbei und zu Stiebel in Treue, der Teuer vermacht. Der Tag hat zerhärtet, die Blumen verwirrte, sie jagen voll Sehnsucht Nacht. Für Nacht euch zurück, es ist neue, der Teuer, und da hast du Liebsten gewahrt. Und da in den Schotten, doch kennt ihr dein Trotz, ist legst kuschen mich lieblich und zart. Frühling zu mein Treue und bring mein Liebsten, mein Treuen zurück. Frühling und eure Fliege bleier und nimm mein Herz mit und gib es um mein Glück. Frühling, go früh und gekommen, zitliert hat so Bänkschaft nach dir. Ich seh dich fühlst du beladen mit Blumen, auf welche gehst du zu mir? Die Sonne hat vergossen den Garten bis Strahlen, zerspratzt hat die Welt sich in Grün. Mein Treuen, mein Liebster, wo bist du verfallen? Du gehst nicht heraus von meinem Sinn. Frühling, nimm zu mein Treue und bring mein Liebster, mein Treuen zurück. Frühling, mit deiner Finger bläuer und nimm mein Herzlied und gib es auf mein Glück. Frühling, mit deiner Finger bläuer und nimm mein Herzlied und gib es auf mein Glück.
Hirsch Glick, a young poet who at the age of 21 wrote the words to Zognet Keinmal as du gehst dem letzten Weg. Do not ever say you are walking the last road. Glick was so inspired by the news of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising that started on the eve of Passover, April 19, 1943, that he began to write the words to Zognet Keinmal. Set to the music of a Soviet melody, with a marching rhythm, it had an immediate impact and spread rapidly throughout the Vilna Ghetto. People sang it in underground hideouts. They hummed the melody in front of German guards during their slave labor work. The song spread to other ghettos and even reached the concentration camps. The words to the song became a source of hope and a hymn of the Jewish resistance fighters. In 1943, when the Vilna Ghetto was liquidated, Glick was deported to Estonia and taken to several concentration camps. In 1944, Hirsch Glick escaped into the forest to join the partisan fighters, but was never heard from again. It is a tradition for survivors to stand on the last verse. I ask you all to stand, if you are able, in solidarity with the remaining Holocaust survivors of this world. Please join me on the last verse, which will be displayed on the screen in transliteration, along with the English translation. Give me a G.
Sag nicht Keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg. Hat Schimmeln Bleien auf a Stelle im neuen Tag. Kommen wird noch unser rausgebänkte Schau. Das Wetter beugt in unser Trott, wir seien da. Von grünen Palmenland bis weiten Land von Schnee. Wir kommen und mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. Und wo gefallen ist der Spritz von unser Blut, sprotzen wir durch unser Gwura, unser Mut. So wird die Morgensonne begierden uns dem Heint. Und de Nächten wird verschwinden mit dem Feind. Nur Rufe zusammen wird die Sohlen der Parole. Wie a Parole, so ging das Lied von Dor zu Dor. Das Lied geschrieben ist mit Blut und nicht mit Blei. Es ist nicht kein Lied von Erfolg, läuft er frei. Da hat der Fuchs zwischen vollen dicke Welt. Das Lied gesungen mit einer Garnis in die Hand. Sag nicht keiner, lass du gehst den letzten Weg. Rutsch in den Bleiern auf Verstelle neue Tag. Hobit fällt nach uns, zerreißt der Bänke schon. Zweite Beugten und Traut, wir seien in da. Willkommen, wird doch uns zerreißt gebänke schon. Zweter Point in unser Traut. Mir soll wieder da.
You may be seated. Well, you've heard that before in this congregation, right? Before I conclude my program, I want to acknowledge my ensemble, Diana Parmeter on cello, and Daniel Avedon on accordion. You can stand. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Temple Beth for giving me the opportunity to sing these rarely performed songs in such a beautiful sanctuary. The behind-the-scenes support of Executive Director Carrie Jacobs and Finance Coordinator Shawnee Gramko allowed me to focus on my music. Of course, none of this technology and elaborate sound system would be possible were it not for your very knowledgeable and talented cantor, Elan Davidson. Thank you, cantor. On behalf of Temple Bethel, I would also like to thank the generosity of Temple Bethel member Bob Gold, whose interest in preserving Jewish culture was responsible for sponsoring this concert. Thank you, Bob. Oh, and one more thank you goes to my husband, Dr. Joseph Bennish, for agreeing to change he agreed to change the slides on my presentation. By the way, he speaks fluid Yiddish, and he's very good at it. Okay, remember Zola Piatka Schumann? She is the niece of the composer Lev Rosenthal, who wrote Yisroelik, the song about the child peddlers. Zola lives in Cape Town, South Africa. She is both a composer and singer, and the composer and writer of the beautiful Holocaust memorial song that you are about to hear called Herzlich zu, We Will Remember You. I introduced Zola to the conductor of the Los Angeles Jewish Community Children's Choir, Michelle Green-Wilner, who created an arrangement of Zola's song for her choir. I would like to complete this evening with a remembrance by sharing this uplifting virtual performance. And just a little note, at the end you will see a lot of grandparents who are all survivors. And I'd like to mention that the composer, Michelle Green-Wilner, has dedicated the video to her father, Jerry Green, a Holocaust survivor who was liberated from Bergen-Belsen. Thank you. Well, that concludes the program, but I wanted to put it to the audience if you had any questions about this program, how it came about, or any pressing questions or not. How it did come about. Well, I grew up in an Orthodox synagogue, and I grew up hearing the melodies of the great cantors, Yossi Rosenblatt, Kusevitsky, and I remember when I was very little, they had a cantor that came from Brooklyn. It was a very small shtetl of a synagogue called Shamokin, Pennsylvania. And there was only one synagogue, and it was Orthodox. It didn't matter what you were. You all went to this Orthodox synagogue. But I grew up hearing these beautiful melodies, and even as a little girl, I remember getting teary-eyed and crying, hearing this man sing, because I had never heard that kind of a voice coming out of a man before. And it was at the time of the end of the war, and cantors had a very big responsibility. Their responsibility was to really uplift their congregation because there was so much pain finding out what was coming out of World War II, about the Holocaust. So those melodies sort of stayed with me. And I always wanted to do a concert, but I wasn't quite sure, would I do Yiddish theater? Will I do a concert of Hebrew songs, klezmer songs? I have sung a klezmer band. But then I went to visit a friend of mine who was a Yiddish teacher and a wonderful pianist, and she used to teach a children's choir, a Yiddish children's choir. And I knew she had a library of Yiddish songs, and I said, can I look through your library? She was 97 at the time. And so I took all this music, but one book really caught my attention, and that was 30 Songs of the Ghetto. And I looked through it, and that very first song, The Lonely Child, I had never heard of it, and it was so beautiful. The problem was there was no translation. There wasn't even a composer listed, just the writer. And I need to know more about this. So I looked it up online, and suddenly all these pages showed up about this song. And by the way, I had taken like several scores of her volumes of Yiddish songs from my friend Ethel. Her name was Ethel Weinstein. And did you all get a program? Okay, so on the back you'll see her name, Ethel Weinstein. And she let me have these, well, she didn't let me, she made me sign them out like a library card. She wanted them back. And I must have listened. I sang through probably about 280 songs till I found the songs that resonated with me. I would sit there at the piano and I'd go, nah, maybe. Yeah, that's a definite. And I would do this like for like 200, and then I went on a vacation, and I left my book on the train. All the decisions I had made, I'm like, oh no. And Amtrak insisted they don't throw anything away. Yes, they do. Never got that back. So I had to kind of go through and kind of remember the ones that I liked. And it just sort of evolved. And at first it started out, I only had an accordionist. And I thought, something's missing. I think it needs a cello. And I needed that somber ambiance. And then I only had this music that just had the melody line and chords. There was no beautiful arrangement like what you're hearing tonight. And so we improvised and came up. I told them, this is what I want. I want it to sound like this. And it worked for a while until I took their scribbled music in front of some other musicians in another state and said, what's this? And then I went to a place called Klez Canada. Has anyone ever heard of that? It's a place where they come from all over the world, klezmer musicians. And all they do is play klezmer music and Yiddish. And Yiddish Glory, have you heard of Yiddish Glory? Yiddish Glory, it was actually Grammy nominated. They found some old Soviet poems and they put them to music, but the music was like in the style of the music that you're hearing tonight, but they composed new music in that style. And when they gave the concert at Klez Canada, they had someone tell the story of the song. They had a screen with historical photos. They had an ensemble of cello, accordion, and they had a clarinetist. I thought, wait a minute, that was my idea. Why are they? And I thought, wow. But I realized that summer there was something missing. I needed professional arrangements. And so I put the word out. I said, are there any composers here? And they, oh yeah, and they told me. And the first one I went to was this, oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Joe? Yeah. He doesn't remember his name either. It's always on the, he actually does arrangements for Joel Gray, Itzhak Perlman, and I asked him, well, how much do you charge to arrange a song? And he said, $1,000. And my mouth dropped. He goes, well, I do it for the big guys, Joel Gray, Itzhak Perlman. He said, but I have a student here, and you might want to talk to him. So I talked to him, and we shook on a price. And so when I sang this concert at the Art Theater in Long Beach, the daughters of Ethel Weinstein came down. They lived in Northern California. They came down to watch the concert. And I had just been to Klascan, and I realized my next project was I needed to raise money so I could have all these beautiful songs arrangements. I actually have 6 more, but I'm still waiting. I have to have them arranged. So I told them I'm at this point where I'm going to do a fundraiser and I'm going to raise money so I can get new arrangements. And then 2 weeks later, there was a letter in the mail, and there were 2 checks, one from each daughter, one for $2,000 and another one for $2,000. Okay, I'm calling that my composer, and I'm like, let's do something. I'll give it all to you. Let's work out a deal. So that's why you're hearing these beautiful arrangements. And it just has added so much to this concert, and I feel like it's added new life to these pieces. I think I said too much. Okay, was there anybody else? Yes.
Wondering in your research if you came across what the origin of the word ghetto is. Is it a Yiddish word?
Ghetto. I think it is Yiddish. Well, let's go to the expert. Joe?
The first ghetto was in Venice.
What year?
The word,
1500.
the area in which the ghetto was located, had a foundry, and the Italian word for foundry.
Thank you, Joe. Can you say it a little louder? What did you say? Zachary Mayer. Yeah, he's the name of the composer. Yeah, I've been using Zachary Mayer quite a bit. Wow. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
Just one more huge thank you for Harriet and Daniel and Diana.
Yeah, thanks.
So beautiful. What a
Thank you.
We are going to have a small reception in Al Manuel Hall, so please join us there. Also, coming up on the calendar very soon, in just a couple of weeks, we have our artist and scholar in residence, and I hope that you are all signing up for that weekend. Of course, we are welcoming world-renowned puppeteer and storyteller, Jewish storyteller, Marilyn Price, and her husband Roger, who has written a book about Judaism and science. And Marilyn, for those of you that don't know, is the sister, the much younger sister of Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi David Lieb of blessed memory.
Yeah, I did it.
So you don't want to miss that. We'll turn off her microphone. You don't want to miss that weekend. It's going to be spectacular, including if you're a sponsor, an amazing Friday night dinner made by Elliot Swartz at his home, and if you sign up for the Saturday night concert, you get to be a guest at Bob Gold's home. So you don't want to miss all of these wonderful events. Thank you all for being here again, and thank you again to Bob for bringing Harriet to us, and to Harriet and Daniel and Diana for the beautiful music. And Joe, you did a great job with the slides. Thank you so much. We'll see you at Al Manuel Hall. Thank you so much.